On today's episode of Watch Chair Go, I fail miserably at buying another car. What is going on, guys? I'm Watch Chair Go, and today we're here in the garage because I just figured it was time to take a knee and show you guys how disastrous one day of trying to buy a car for a video can go. So the doorbell rang this morning and I was like, oh cool, UPS or FedEx is here. It's probably something from Amazon. Just what I wanted to wake up to. And instead, it was my brother-in-law banging on the door and he was like, come outside, I need your help. So I went outside and there he was with a diesel that he bought the night before, and he needed the LEDs replaced in the gauge cluster. Well, the lights replaced in the gauge cluster with LEDs because half of it was burnt out. And I was like, yeah, that's no big deal. And I was like, hey, since you're here, I could use a truck and trailer and we could go buy a car. So I've been looking at this 2000 VW Beetle, one of the new Beetles, and it had the 2.0 NA engine in it, which is, you know, a mediocre car, mediocre engine, but he had a new engine with it because it had a blown engine. And he only wanted $650 for the car and the engine together. 180,000 something miles on the car, and it was red. KBB is 2,500 to 3,000, fair market value on that car. I was like, yeah, seems like fun. Let's go get it. Eric, what are you doing over here?
I'm trying to break this truck.
Nothing. A cheeseburger. Oh, right there beside the steering. Yep. Oh man.
Program your vehicle. Custom tune. Looney Wild.
I think you should just put it on the middle one.
It's on the middle one right now.
Oh.
This unleashes all the power to her.
Let's get silly, boys.
Huh. I feel like it's a bad idea.
I'm ready for this burnout.
Select continue.
We're gonna launch it.
Begin program.
I figure if you just baby it, you can run this tune forever. Brian's truck stays on the biggest tune, even when we're towing. Pull that trailer with the Lambo in it, 100 mile an hour.
No, we'll replace the transmission lines, and we need to get under it with the power washer and brush it all off. And
no doubt.
I mean, I'll put brakes on it.
Turn key on, do not start.
It's got a
turn key off. That is the cold here. And we're here with my brother-in-law who decided to trade his F-150 for a one-ton SRW last night, and he's missing a few things. It looks like Oakley's, I don't know, what else do you need to drive?
Turbo sticker.
Oh, no turbo sticker on the rear.
Backwards flat bell.
Yep, yep. And maybe a giant sticker that says oil money.
Yep, cross chain.
And then we're good. But we're gonna take his King Ranch, hook it onto a trailer, and go buy a car. And right after we finished doing that huge burnout and picking up a trailer, we got back almost to my house, and one of the brakes was rolling smoke out of it. And Eric said there were a few brake issues before, and I was like, I mean, it's probably okay. It doesn't seem like they're locked up or anything. But after the burnout, I think that did it in. So we went ahead and pulled it right back to my house and ended up doing a brake job in the street.
What are you talking?
Okay,
isn't the hardware in there?
Send it. The hardware. This thing's ready to go.
What is he talking about?
How is this only $50?
Well, it's 150, but you take it back and you get $50 back. So it was 100.
Oh, it was 100. Okay, $100.
But that's not that. But I bought brake fluid. That's $10, and I bought towels. That's $15. So it was $85.
Okay,
that's pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
I said it was only. It's like $350 to do the whole thing.
Hey, what a mess! It's time to find out if the brake job works. Brand new caliper.
Are they?
It's hitting the ABS.
Oh, drive it for a second, see what happens.
What do you mean it's hitting the ABS?
There's no way the ABS pump's running. We would have heard it. Seems like you got great brakes.
This thing drives like a dream, bro.
Yeah. After 2 or 3 O'Reilly's runs, we ended up with all the parts we needed. We had the wrong caliper the first time, ended up getting the right caliper, getting it on there, brake fluid, you know, all the good stuff, bleeding the brakes, and the brake job was done. And now the brakes work perfectly again on his new truck. Back to O'Reilly's to return the core. A lot of stuff you got there, Eric.
Oh, yeah. 100 pounds.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt each one of those weighs a ton. Good luck. Once that was all wrapped up, we jumped back in the truck and went to go get this Beetle. We got to the other side of Wichita to pick up this Beetle, and I was like, I mean, it's okay. It was super faded red, of course, as you'd expect. The sun's been beating on that car for some time. The interior had been swapped. The guy was kind of walking me through the car. He was like, well, I got a turbo interior. It has all the leather panels. It has the leather seats, all that good stuff. And I was like, well, that looks pretty good. But it came out of a green car, so it had green painted upper trim on each side of the door panels, and there were some other parts that were painted, you know, the glossy green that's supposed to match the car, which means it came out of one of the green Beetles. I was okay with all that, and then the owner just kind of kept telling me more and more of the story about the car. You know, he said it was his driver, it's a 5-speed, transmission's pretty solid, it has a recent clutch. Then the engine died, and I asked, you know, do you have a battery? Can I start it to drive it on the trailer? And he said, well, the battery's not in it, let me go get one. And he goes and grabs a battery. Wrong battery. Terminals are all flipped, and you know, you can't actually make the terminals reach that battery because they're on the wrong side. You know, everything's basically fixed exactly in that car, so the battery just sits right up against the terminals like that. And I was like, well, it's not that big of a deal. I've got my jump pack. I brought it just for this. And I said, will it start? And he said, well, probably not anymore, because somebody had been under the car and they unplugged some stuff. So I went down there and looked. Sure, one of a big like 6-pin connector was hanging underneath the car, both ends of it. It was unplugged. And I kept looking under the car, and there's a big gap. The cat's gone. And I was like, well, why is the cat gone? He said another guy started to tear this car down and took the cat, and it was all melted or hollowed out inside. And I was like, well, I mean, that doesn't help me. I got to put a cat in the car because I have to sell it, and you know it's got front and rear O2s, so that's another expense. The battery is $100. Cat was $120 on eBay. I just kept finding more and more things, and then the rocker panel on the driver's side was completely caved in, like somebody kind of just drove it down a curb or one of those parking barriers. And I mean, that looked solvable. You could probably PDR out the big dent and cover it up. And then there were scrapes down the door and a couple other little body issues that added up. And of course, there was another engine sitting there. That looks cool. And it was, you know, from a reputable salvage yard here in town. I was fine with that. Drop the subframe, stick the engine in, probably have the whole thing done in far less than a day, get it down the road, and it would be fun. So I said, what do you really want for this? And he was like, $550. And I was like, yeah, that sounds reasonable. Like $500 and I'll take it right now, because I brought, you know, $600 to make the deal. And as more and more things kept adding onto the car, I figured we'd negotiate the other way. And so I could save myself part of that $200 plus to $300-400 it was going to take to get the thing back on the road for real. The guy thought about it for a minute, comes back over, he said, $500, I'll take it, no big deal. I was like, sweet, you have a title? He said, I do have a title, but I don't have it. And I was like, well, that doesn't help me one bit. So I guess the title is in another city in Kansas and they can't find it, and they were going to do a lost title. The lost title paperwork in Kansas might come back in some relatively soon amount of time. I mean, it could be 2 weeks for lost title, but it may take the normal title time, which is about 2 months, maybe longer right now. A long time. The guy said he was gonna go overnight the title paperwork up to Topeka and get all that done, but honestly, like, it's a really bad situation for him. I didn't want to be in the situation either where I was waiting on the title. He offered me titles to his other cars to hold while I was waiting on the title for the Beetle. Yeah, I didn't want to be involved with any of that. I wanted to be able to get all my title work taken care of, all that fun stuff. So it was just a kind of a deal we had to walk away from at that point. But it was a very interesting day where we still had to work on things because truck broke. We just kept having to fix things. You know, we had to go get a trailer. It'd be nice if I had my own truck and trailer, something reliable. We could just hop in and go buy these cars. But a lot of days it just doesn't work out. So that's the story of how I tried to go buy a 2000 Beetle for you guys. Have a lot of fun with a quick engine swap. I mean, it's honestly simple, and a lot of it had been unplugged, which also, that's a really tough thing to get into too, because you just don't want something somebody else started on and then abandoned. Who knows how much of it was missing. It seemed like the car was relatively complete, probably would have sold easily for $2,500, and I wanted to have some fun. I've never owned a new Beetle, and I've only driven one time, years ago. So it could have been fun to rip around with a manual car. Plus, you know I love doing engine swaps, just not that one. Speaking of, we will get back to that one soon. I just sprayed all the exhaust manifolds down with knocker loose and the O2s and all this stuff that's going to be really hard to take off from heat and time. And I wanted to let all that penetrate for a while, so it's really easy to work on. But hey, we'll get back on the R8 soon. It's not like you guys have to wait nearly as long now that it's out. I'm really ready to get it back together, obviously. But I'm also not in a huge rush. There's so many other things that are super fun to work on, and I'd much rather be working on those. And I think everyone else enjoys those more because they're a lot more attainable and things you can just go do in a weekend versus this, where there's no chance you can do any of it in a weekend. There are no parts at O'Reilly's. Parts only come from Germany or New York and warehouses. you just can't do anything the same day. It's not like working on any other car. It's mostly just sitting around waiting on things. So that is it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. And if I didn't end up with a new car for you guys, at least I did end up with some good barbecue. The rest of the night was really great. And please, like, share, subscribe, do whatever you want to do, and I will talk to you next time. The motion lights in this garage make it really hard to shoot videos for you guys. They just turn on every time I look at the camera.